On our wedding night, my husband apologized to me. He said that to defend his love, I must take my own life. Speak, which will you choose? Poison wine, a dagger, hanging, or drowning? I replied, can I choose to die of pleasure? Lin Xiao's first wife was driven to her death by him. On their wedding night, he had fallen in love with the girl selling tofu on West Street and wanted to marry her as his official wife. His family did not agree. As the heir to the Marquis of Chongping, how could he marry a commoner? The Marchioness made the decision for him, arranging his marriage to the daughter of the Vice Minister of Revenue. But on the wedding night, he hurled insults and humiliated the girl relentlessly. Unable to bear the shame, the girl swallowed gold and died. Her family, having accepted substantial compensation from the Marquis of Chongping's estate, did not pursue the matter. As a result, Lin Xiao's marriage prospects became difficult. He even declared that anyone who dared to marry their daughter into his household would see her meet the same fate, one after another. But there are always those who disregard their daughter's life and death, only seeking to climb the social ladder and gain wealth and status. Like my father, even when the concubine knelt and begged him, it was useless. The matriarch said, don't worry, Yue Hua is beautiful and gentle. The heir apparent of the Marquis of Chongping will surely be reluctant to harm her. I knew from the start that it was her idea. The concubine was beautiful. In her youth, my father neglected the matriarch for her, and the matriarch never forgot it. But first sister said, that's not certain. Wanner's son isn't unattractive either. Wanner's son was the daughter of the Vice Minister of Revenue. The matriarch shot her a glare. First sister added, I really don't understand why the Marquis of Chongping's family won't let the heir apparent marry the woman he loves. What's wrong with selling tofu? True love knows no social status. So naive. The concubine's eyes were swollen from crying. I told her, don't worry, he won't be able to kill me. On our wedding night, I met Jiao Lin for the first time. He was tall and handsome, with a gloomy look in his eyes, and spoke gently as he offered me a choice of how to die. I replied, can I choose to die of pleasure? He suddenly turned harsh, scolding me for having no shame. I said, isn't this just marital play? Seeing I wasn't cooperating, he lost patience and brought poison wine to force down my throat. How laughable. He clearly didn't know my capabilities. I've been clever since childhood. My father hired a master to teach my sister and me the four arts, and I surpassed her in every one. The matriarch, displeased, insisted I was frail and sent me to learn martial arts with my eldest brother's master. Martial training was exhausting and grueling. With no extra energy, I fell behind in my former studies. Moreover, my skin tanned and my hands grew rough. The matriarch was smug, thinking she defeated me without a fight. Little did she know, it was all part of my scheme. What use is mastering the four arts? In danger, could reciting a passage shame an enemy to death? Like right now, as Jiao Lin tried to force the poison wine, I feigned fear with pleas of no, then knocked him out with a chop when he drew near. When Jiao Lin woke up, he found himself stripped naked and tied to the bed by me. He was both ashamed and furious. You shameless woman, what do you think you're doing? I'll have you know, even if you have my body, you'll never have my heart. Who wants that useless thing? I forced him to drink the aphrodisiac wine. Thinking it was poison wine, he first cursed me, then begged for mercy, and finally broke down in tears from fear. And here, I thought he had some backbone. Speaking of being hard, Jiao Lin stayed erect all night, beneath me, time and again. He wept in humiliation, swearing repeatedly that he would kill me. I teased lightly, to die under the peony, even as a ghost. One remains dashing. In the morning, his legs were too weak to leave the bed, so I went alone to serve tea to my parents. In law, they probably had some idea of what had happened the night before. The Marquis of Chongping's estate had already lost one daughter. In law, they wouldn't allow another to die. The Marchioness took my hand and praised me. Well done. Then added, give me a fat, healthy grandson soon. I blushed and softly murmured in agreement. Jiao Lin didn't wake until afternoon, and I had already untied him earlier. Naked, he glared at me from under the covers. Where are my clothes? I handed him the clothes I'd freshened with incense, which he hastily put on. Once out of bed, he beckoned me, "Come here." As I approached, his expression suddenly turned fierce, and he reached to grab my neck. I was alert and stepped back the moment he moved, then kicked out. He fell to the floor, utterly disbelieving. "How dare you lay hands on me?" I clearly used my foot as he tried to get up. I quickly pounced on him. "Why is my husband lying on the floor? Do you prefer doing it down here?" "Oh my, you're so inventive, darling." Blushing, I began to caress him. His face paled. "What are you doing?" He tried to push me away, but found he couldn't. "Yua hua zhao, don't go too far." He gritted through his teeth. Then he discovered, to his shame, that he was hard again. He gasped sharply. "What have you done to me?" I whispered in his ear. "Just some stimulating massage techniques. Do you like them?" My husband, Zhao Lin, couldn't leave the room for 2 days. I had meals delivered to our chamber. He ate a great deal to replenish his energy. On the 3rd day came the bride's homecoming visit. He took the chance to escape while I was changing clothes, slipped out through the dog door. We only realized he was missing when it was time to depart. The Marchioness pulled a long face and sent people to search for him. I said, "It's all right, mother-in-law. I can go alone." She felt terribly sorry and slipped the jade bracelet from her wrist to give me. I returned with 3 carts of gifts. Concubine breathed a sigh of relief when she saw me. She had been suffering these past 2 days, unable to eat or sleep well, fearing bad news from the Marquis residence. The matriarch was also pleased. "See, I told you the young master couldn't bear to part with you." Her happiness came because my father had been promoted. An eldest brother had joined the Imperial Guard. Only my sister was unhappy. She pulled me aside and asked, "Has the heir apparent changed his heart? Has he fallen for you?" I said shyly, "The heir apparent is merely temporarily captivated by my beauty." She was disappointed, murmuring to herself, "Is there truly no unwavering love in this world?" I didn't return directly to the Marquis of Chomping's estate. I went to West Street instead. Sure enough, Zhao Lin was at the tofu stall. The young woman, Madame Qian, wore bright red and was radiant and lively, her clear voice making her stand out among the vendors. Zhao Lin assisted her by her side, the two occasionally exchanging sweet glances like a newlywed couple. I approached them. Madame Qian greeted me. "Madam, what would you like to buy?" I looked at Zhao Lin, who reacted as if he'd seen a ghost, first covering his upper body, then his lower, and finally his face, muttering, "Don't see me, don't see me." My gaze settled on Madame Qian's face as I said gently, "I've come to take my husband home." She froze, understanding my identity, and her expression turned peculiar. As Zhao Lin retreated into the shop, I caught up in a few steps, calling, "Husband." He pressed himself against the wall, exclaiming, "Don't touch me." Not touching him was impossible. I caressed his chest. Standing wouldn't be out of the question. His face flushed crimson with embarrassment and annoyance. "Yua hua zhao, it's broad daylight, and we're in someone else's house." How could this be someone else's house? This shop front, along with the living quarters at the back, were all acquired by him for Madame Qian. He used the estate's funds. So naturally, it belongs to the Marquis of Chomping's estate. And what belongs to the Marquis of Chomping's estate is mine. But I wasn't that desperate. I said with feigned difficulty, "Husband, daylight debauchery is unbecoming of a gentleman. Hold back a little, and I'll surely satisfy you tonight." He was so furious he nearly fainted. Madame Qian walked in. Zhao Lin quickly tried to push me away, but couldn't budge me. My stance was too steady. This made it look as though he had just groped my chest. Madame Qian was stunned. I feigned shyness. So naughty. And with an outsider present. "Zhao Lin." Madame Qian said wistfully. "The heir apparent and his wife truly share a deep bond." Zhao Lin. "No, Madame Qian. Let me explain." Madame Qian ran out. Zhao Lin wanted to chase after her, but I grabbed his arm. He tried to dash forward, but couldn't move an inch. "Let go of me," he roared. I released my grip. With a thud, he crashed into the doorframe, and a large bump immediately swelled on his forehead. Ignoring the pain, He hurriedly chased after her. Madame Qian hadn't gone far. She was still standing by the tofu stall, but tears welled in her eyes. Her feigned strength moved Zhao Lin to the point that his eyes also reddened. "Madame," he said, "I don't like her. You're the only one in my heart." Madame Qian replied, "Ah, Zhao, let it be. I'm not one to care about status. Even if I have to be your concubine, I'm willing as long as I can stay by your side." "No, Madame." Zhao Lin grasped her hand. "I will marry you properly with a grand procession. I only acknowledge you as my wife." "Ah, Zhao." "Madame." In the end, Zhao Lin was dragged back home. It wasn't me who dragged him. It was done by the Marchioness's people. He was reprimanded, but remained unrepentant. He even tried to negotiate with me. "If you request a divorce yourself, I'll persuade my father to promote your father one more rank." I smiled at him. "You couldn't even convince them to let you marry Madame Qian, and you think you can persuade them about other matters? Where does your confidence come from?" He fumed in frustration. "What will it take for you to leave? What good would my leaving do? Even if I leave, there will be other girls. Your parents will never agree to you marrying Madame Qian, so you might as well give up on that idea." The angrier he got, the gentler I became. "As long as your father remains the Marquis of Chongping, you'll never be the one calling the shots in this household." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Be good now. Stop making a fuss. Your real duty is to bear many heirs for the Marquisate. Don't touch me." He stepped back. I moved forward until I had him cornered against the wall. "Do you want to remain standing?" I asked in a soft, gentle voice. He looked at me in disbelief. "Yua Hua Zhao, how can there be a woman in this world as shameless as you?" I covered my mouth with a laugh, bracing my arms against the wall to trap him. Spanking is affection. Scolding is love. So it turns out my husband loves me this much. "Zhao Lin." "Ah." I began to undress him. He clutched his waistband tightly, defiant to the end. "If you dare, don't use any drugs on me. Put away all your dirty tricks. I'm telling you, I have no feelings for you whatsoever. The sight of you makes me sick. As a woman, you..." He suddenly fell silent, his eyes wide with shock. I took off my clothes, leaving only a crimson embroidered undergarment with mandarin ducks playing in water, revealing my snow white skin and striking curves in full view. His face flushed so red it seemed about to bleed. I slowly moved closer to him, breathing softly by his ear. He instantly stiffened up. I nibbled his earlobe and whispered, "Admit it, you're actually enjoying this too, aren't you?" Zhao Lin was mine once again. At first, he resisted a little, but soon he was thinking with his lower half. "Men, huh?" After it was over, he was suddenly overcome with shame, covering his face and sobbing. "Wah wah, I'm not pure anymore. I've wronged Madame Qian." Then he cursed me. "It's all because of you, this shameless woman who seduced me." I couldn't be bothered to respond, cleaned up, and went to sleep. Even while sleeping, I remained highly alert. The moment Zhao Lin moved, I noticed it, but I didn't stir, pretending to be asleep. He pulled out a dagger and pointed it at me. After much hesitation, he still didn't dare to act. Coward. I knew he didn't have the guts to kill someone outright. Only a fool like Wan-er-san would be provoked into taking her own life by him. So foolish. Zhao Lin went to see Madame Qian every day. The two of them sold tofu together. In fact, the Marchioness had already relented, agreeing to let Madame Qian enter the mansion as a concubine. But Zhao Lin insisted on giving her the status of a proper wife. Lord Marquis secured him a position at the Ministry of Personnel, but he refused to go. He rarely stayed out overnight, mostly returning home to sleep. He stayed in the study, but it was useless. When I wanted to sleep with him, he had to get up even if he was drinking medicinal soup. No one would pay him any mind, even if he screamed his throat raw. The Marchioness was eager for me to get pregnant soon. She thought that if Zhao Lin became a father, he wouldn't be so reckless anymore. Once, when Zhao Lin hadn't returned very late, I changed into night clothes and went to West Street to find him. Madame Qian tried to keep him overnight. Zhao, I'm willing. In my heart, you've long been my husband." She had specially put on makeup and changed into a new dress. looking more enchanting than usual under the candlelight. Zhao Lin was stunned, his Adam's apple bobbing as he struggled to restrain himself. But in the end, he managed to hold back. "Third madam, I can't let you follow me without clarity. Please give me a little more time." He chugged a pot of cold water, then bolted out the door. Madame Qian chased after him for a couple of steps before stopping. In the quiet night, she didn't dare to shout loudly, so she could only tear at her handkerchief in frustration and curse. "Coward." I hurried back to the estate to take advantage of the situation. I walked quickly and arrived home before Zhao Lin. By the time he came to my room, I was already lying in bed. Without a word, he searched around with a cold expression. Finally, he looked toward the bed and asked, "Have you seen my jade pendant? The white one?" I pulled his hand toward my bosom. "Take a look. Is it here?" He scolded me, shameless. Yet his hand remained, honest in its reluctance to pull away. His desire had been stirred by Madame Qian, who failed only because she held back. Had she stripped and embraced Zhao Lin from behind, how could he have resisted? I pulled Zhao Lin directly onto me, whispering into his ear, "Would you like to search inside?" It happened naturally, without the slightest effort. From that day on, Zhao Lin became very enthusiastic. He came to my bed every night. We even studied erotic art together, exploring which positions might lead to pregnancy. The Marchioness was delighted, thinking I had finally tamed Zhao Lin. I'm not that naive. Zhao Lin hadn't visited Madame Qian for some time. Unable to contain herself, Madame Qian came knocking. To be precise, she came looking for me. I received her in the side hall. The moment she saw me, she knelt and said, "The heir apparent and I are truly in love. I beg you, Lady of the Heir Apparent, to grant us your blessing." I replied gently, "Pleading with me is useless. The heir apparent and I are already married. I can't very well request a divorce just to make way for you, can I?" She shook her head urgently. "I wouldn't dare ask for that. I only wish to stay by the heir apparent's side day and night, even if it means being a concubine or a chambermaid." Her expression was sincere and resolute. It suddenly dawned on me that she wasn't employing a strategy of retreat to advance. She genuinely didn't mind. Interesting. I nodded. Very well. She was overjoyed, kowtowed to me, and showered me with flattering words. I had someone prepare tea. Taking a concubine is such a trivial matter that the man's presence isn't required. As long as the principal wife, give my consent, he could have 10 or 8 concubines brought in for him. Madame Qian handed me a cup of tea, and I was about to drink it. Zhao Lin suddenly rushed in, knocked the teacup from my hand, pulled Madame Qian to her feet, and angrily said to me, "Yua Hua Zhao, how vicious you are. You actually forced Madame Qian to become a concubine." Madame Qian quickly waved her hands. "No, heir apparent. I begged the heir apparent's wife to let me be a concubine. She didn't force me. You don't need to speak up for her. I know exactly what kind of person she is." He tried to pull Madame Qian away with him. Madame Qian refused to leave. "Heir apparent, I truly wish to be a concubine. I'm sincere about this." She laid bare her heart. "I'm just a common girl with no family background, uneducated, ignorant of etiquette and rules, unable to socialize properly, and incapable of managing households or accounts. I'm not qualified to be your official wife. She'll." Zhao Lin pressed his index finger to her lips to stop her. "Madame Qian, don't belittle yourself. In my heart, you're the finest girl. 10 Yuehua, Zhao's couldn't compare to you." I rolled my eyes. Madame Qian reached out to me. "Heir apparent's wife, I truly am willing. I mean it from the bottom of my heart." "No, you're not." Zhao Lin dragged her away. Zhao Lin and I had a huge argument. To be precise, it was his one-sided tirade. I waited coldly for him to finish, then said only one thing: "I'm pregnant." The entire household was in an uproar. After the physician confirmed it, the Marchioness couldn't stop smiling, repeatedly saying excellent, then scolded Zhao Lin, "Your wife is with child now. You must not upset her. Understand?" Zhao Lin looked listless. The Marchioness softened her tone and added, "You're about to become a father. It's time to learn to be more steady. From now on, You two should live harmoniously. If you truly fancy that Madame Qian or others, taking them as concubines is fine. Your wife isn't the jealous type." She glanced at me, and I smiled gently. Zhao Lin remained silent. That night, he slept in the study. The Marchioness prepared 2 chambermaids for him, but he declined. I prepared some sweet soup and went to see him, but he wasn't in the study. The servants said he had gone to the main courtyard without bringing anyone along. I quietly made my way there alone. That's just how cautious I am. The mother and son were quarreling again. The Marchioness was furious. "Why are you so stubborn? Why must you insist on marrying Madame Qian as your principal wife? Haven't you given up yet? You're already married. You have a wife, and she's pregnant." Zhao Lin said, "For women, childbirth is like stepping 1 foot into the underworld. Death is not uncommon." The Marchioness stared at him in disbelief. "Have you gone mad?" He looked at the Marchioness. "Mother, when you truly love someone, you want to offer them the best of everything in the world. I love Madame Qian, and I won't let her suffer the slightest grievance." The Marchioness was stunned, as if recalling her own youth. After a long while, she said, "My agreement is useless. Your father won't consent." Zhao Lin fell silent. "So foolish. I'll have to give him some advice." Zhao Lin returned to the study. I had someone reheat the sweet soup and deliver it again. He seemed somewhat flustered, but quickly composed himself. "What are you doing here? You're with child now. You shouldn't." I placed the sweet soup on the table and smiled. "My dear husband, you're overthinking it. I simply came to share what's in my heart." He frowned at me. I said, "Do you know of Prince Jing from Lizhou Prefecture?" He couldn't grasp my meaning. Still frowning, his father and His Majesty were brothers, but he died young. He inherited the princedom at 16, and though his mother was still alive, he held absolute authority in his domain. His princess was merely a female physician. When he decided to marry her, no one dared oppose him. "My dear husband, your circumstances differ from his, so please abandon any thoughts of marrying Madame Qian. Now that I'm with child, let our family of 3 live peacefully together. All right? If you truly care for Madame Qian, find her a suitable match and provide her with a dowry. My dear husband, in this life, we face too many constraints and moments of powerlessness. Don't make things harder for yourself." His frown eased, and he said, "I understand." Zhao Lin began his duties at the Ministry of Personnel. He seemed to have cut ties with Madame Qian, focusing solely on being a good husband, son, and father, besides constantly sending me tonics. He also stewed ginseng soup daily for the Marquis of Chongping. The Marquis was pleased. Indeed, becoming a father has made him more responsible. However, the Marchioness grew restless and lost sleep. She knew, well, that excessive nourishment during pregnancy could lead to overnutrition, causing the fetus to grow too large and making childbirth difficult, endangering both mother and child with the risk of suffocation. Zhao Lin not only wanted me dead, but didn't even desire the child. The Marchioness, on the other hand, wanted this child. She had long awaited her own grandchild and couldn't bear to lose it. But Zhao Lin said, "Madame Qian will bear you many grandsons and granddaughters in the future. What if your father disagrees?" Zhao Lin gritted his teeth. "He will agree." Still distrusting him, the Marchioness subtly advised me to exercise more and moderate my intake of tonics, while transferring 3 shops and 2 manors under my name. I went back to my parents' home to seek my father's help. After hearing me out, my father looked astonished, a mix of shock with a hint of bashfulness and delight, his back straightening unconsciously. I'm already old, and Madame Qian is just 20 years of age. Would she really take a liking to me?" I said, "Father, to be honest, although the heir apparent and I appear harmonious on the surface, he still can't forget Madame Qian. If she were to enter the household later and bear children, would there be any place left for me and my child in the Marquis of Chomping's estate? Father, for your daughter's lifelong happiness and the future of our Zhao family, please reluctantly try to charm Madame Qian." But my father seemed torn, wanting to agree, yet feeling he shouldn't accept too quickly. I added fuel to the fire. "Father, I've looked into it. Madame Qian's parents passed away early, leaving only her and a young brother at home. She works tirelessly from dawn to dusk making and selling tofu just to support him. Her relationship with the heir apparent is also for her brother's future. She doesn't actually have much affection for him. She often complained that the heir apparent wasn't steady enough, always acting rashly. Last time they argued, she accidentally mentioned preferring older men who knew how to care for others. Gentle, considerate, handsome, and refined. My father cleared his throat lightly. Well, that sounds a lot like me. I said, exactly, Dad. And I'm not suggesting you force yourself on anyone. Just go about your usual business. Buy some tofu. Help her out if she's in trouble. Play the hero, rescuing the beauty. Just be yourself. As the saying goes, if you bloom, the butterflies will come. My father shyly waved his hand. Oh, I'm not that great. Truth be told, my father and Zhao Lin weren't really in the same league, setting aside family background. Just in terms of age and looks, while my father still had his charm, Zhao Lin was young and handsome. Only a blind person would choose my father. But the problem was that Zhao Lin, to keep up appearances, had only left third lady with a wait for me before ignoring her. Loving someone means offering them the best of everything. But first, you have to understand what they truly need. Madame Qian, a delicate woman, had played both father and mother roles for many years, raising her younger brother by selling tofu and even sending him to school. With hardships beyond ordinary imagination, she didn't need to be the principal wife of a noble family. She only desired a stable and prosperous life, free from early rises and late nights, from exposing herself in public, and from constant worry over making ends meet. What she sought was a tangible, reliable support, not an unattainable promise. Zhao Lin found contentment in love alone, but Madame Qian was not like that. During this period, my father bought up all the tofu she couldn't sell. When she was harassed by local thugs, my father came to her rescue like a hero. When her brother couldn't afford tuition, my father covered the cost. My father also gifted her jewelry, silk garments, and provided her brother with scholarly supplies, calligraphy models, and books. She was won over. Whether it was love or not is unclear, but my father successfully stole her heart. My father intended to take a concubine, to take the woman his daughter's husband favored as his concubine. That sounds a bit convoluted, but that's exactly how it happened. The matriarch disagreed and played the victim in front of my sister and eldest brother, hoping her children would stop my father. I helped my father and Madame Qian fabricate a romantic love story, and my sister immediately switched sides after hearing it. Her mind is filled with nothing but romance and sentimentality. She admonished the mistress. True love knows no bounds of age or status. I deeply admire Mrs. Qian. For the sake of her beloved, she disregarded societal judgment and cared not for social standing. Mother, don't be so narrow-minded, the matriarch. True love my foot. Eldest brother was even less likely to support her, being a man himself. He found it perfectly normal for men to have multiple wives and concubines. He already had one concubine and one maid in his chambers, both arranged by the matriarch herself after eldest sister. In-law became pregnant. Finally, the matriarch came begging to me. You're now the wife of the heir apparent to the Marquis of Chongping. Your father will listen to you. The matriarch's feelings toward me were complicated. She wanted me to do well, but not too well. If I prospered, I could help elevate our family status. If I lived too well, she'll grow envious. My sister remains unmarried to this day. When asked what she seeks in a partner, she simply says she needs to feel a connection. What nonsense about feeling. After all the matchmaking she's gone through, I've yet to see her develop feelings for anyone. The matriarch hopes she'll marry better than I did, but as things stand, it'd be an achievement if she just manages to wed at all. I looked at the matriarch and said gently, she's merely a concubine. Mother, why trouble yourself? Just provide her with food and shelter. Even if she bears a son, could he ever compete with eldest brother? Besides, with her married, the heir apparent won't linger on thoughts of her. Securing my position as his wife and safeguarding eldest brother's future Isn't that right? The matriarch relented. Truth be told, she had little choice but to yield. By taking the initiative, she might at least earn my father's goodwill. When I was 6 months pregnant, Jiao Lin finally discovered that Madame Qian had married, and to his own father, in law, no less. Merely as a concubine, he exploded with rage instantly. All schemes, all strategies, all patience were thrown to the wind. He stormed over to confront me with fierce determination. Yua Hua Zhao, it was you, wasn't it? You're behind this mischief, aren't you? I feigned innocence. My dear husband, what are you talking about? Why? Has San Yang become your father's concubine? What have you done? I shrugged. I haven't done anything. They fell in love. What could I possibly do about it? He smashed a teacup. In love? How could San Yang possibly love your old man? I see it now. You and your father plotted to seize a common girl by force, didn't you? Yua Hua Zhao, how vicious your heart is. How could you bear to let such a wonderful woman as San Yang become your father's concubine? He even started crying. You've ruined everything. Yua Hua Zhao, you've destroyed my entire life. I won't let you get away with this. How won't you let me get away with it? I looked at him, my tone icy though a smile touched my lips. By bribing the midwife during my childbirth to ensure a double tragedy? He stared at me in shock. Mother has told me everything. I sneered. Do you really think you have any status in this family? You're nothing but a clown. No one cares about you. Not even your own mother loves you. The moment I give birth to a son, you'll be cast aside immediately. His eyes turned bloodshot with rage. It was clear he desperately wanted to kill me. He was never a kind man to begin with. Nor was he particularly bright, and now he was in a fit of anger. Provoked by my words, he reached out to choke my neck. This time, I didn't dodge. His hand tightened inch by inch, his face contorted into a vicious snarl, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. He truly intended to strangle me to death. But soon, he was pulled away, given a hard kick, and slapped across the face. The Marquis of Chongping and the Marchioness had arrived. The Marchioness looked bewildered. Didn't we agree to act only when I went into labor? Why couldn't he contain himself now? Are you insane? The Marquis of Chongping roared. This is your wife, and she's carrying your child. I sobbed while hiding behind the Marquis. Father, save me. The heir apparent wants to silence me. I accidentally saw him poisoning your ginseng soup, and now he wants to kill me. A shocking revelation. Everyone was stunned. Jiao Lin stared at me in horror. He probably realized that when I mentioned Prince Jing to him earlier, it wasn't just casual conversation. As the Marquis and the Marchioness stared at him in shock, he composed himself and quickly explained, Father, don't listen to her nonsense. Why would I ever harm you? I retorted, because you want to marry Madame Qian, but Father disapproves. If something happens to Father, you become the Marquis of Chongping and the household will be under your control. Jiao Lin, are you even human? How could you plot to kill your own father for a woman? If Father were gone, would Mother be next? Patricide and matricide. Jiao Lin, you're worse than an animal. The Marchioness, who had been supporting Jiao Lin, instinctively stepped back several paces upon hearing this. Jiao Lin's face turned pale as he hastily explained. I didn't. Father, Mother, don't be fooled by this woman. She's just trying to drive a wedge between us. Please believe me. To find out the truth, simply call a physician to examine him. Jiao Lin's expression shifted dramatically, cold sweat breaking out uncontrollably on his forehead. Seeing him like this, the Marquis of Chongping was already 70 to 80% convinced. He immediately sent someone to summon a physician while ordering others to search Jiao Lin's room and study. Soon, the servants found a packet of white powder in Jiao Lin's study. The Marquis's face turned ashen with rage. When the physician confirmed that he had indeed been poisoned with a slow, acting substance that had damaged his vitality and shortened his life, the Marquis furiously forced the poison into Jiao Lin's mouth. Wretch! 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 The Marchioness cried out, Son, how could you be so foolish? Jiao Lin was imprisoned in the Marquis's private jail, with the public story being that he had suddenly fallen gravely ill. Patricide was a heinous crime. The Marquis of Chongping was strongly inclined to have him executed, but he had only this one son. Moreover, the poisoning had damaged his health, and he would have no more children in the future. He pinned his hopes on the child in my womb. If it was a son, Jiao Lin could simply be left to die from illness. The Marchioness felt some reluctance, as Jiao Lin hadn't intended to kill her. She knelt on the ground, begging the Marquis of Chongping to spare his life. He was just momentarily confused. Please spare his life. Whether you remove him from the family register, banish him, or sever ties, just let him live. After all, he is our son, and you once held him in your arms. Lord Marquis, I beg you. The Marchioness wept uncontrollably, losing all semblance of her usual noble demeanor. I sobbed along with her. Mother, my husband told you everything. Could it be that you knew about this all along? The Marquis of Chongping's sharp gaze shot over like an arrow. The Marchioness was terrified, even forgetting to cry. I didn't know. Don't you dare falsely accuse me. But the poison was purchased through your private account. And, like father, you also opposed my husband marrying Madame Qian. Yet he didn't target you. The Marquis of Chongping's face darkened. The Marchioness panicked, shaking her head vigorously. I didn't. Lord Marquis, believe me, I truly didn't. We've been married for decades. How could I harm you? I suddenly gasped as if realizing something. Mother, could it be that husband intends to make you the scapegoat? Purposely using your private account, deliberately sparing you. If this comes to light, who would suspect him as the sole male heir of the Marquisate? They'd only suspect you. The Marchioness froze in disbelief, her cheeks trembling uncontrollably, unable to utter a word. The Marquis of Chongping had been poisoned with a slow-acting toxin. This poison differed from others of its kind. It showed no symptoms initially, only manifesting like a sudden illness in its final stages when accumulated toxins erupted simultaneously. Beyond even divine intervention, it was meticulously selected by Jiao Lin for his father, purchased at great expense. During that period, he spent a great deal of money on tonics for me, some charged to the household accounts, others to the Marchioness's private account. The poison mixed and went unnoticed even by the Marchioness. If the Marquis of Chongping died, Jiao Lin, as the sole heir of the Marquisate, could dominate everything. If he claimed the Marquis died of illness, then it would be so. But he still held back a trick. Yet it was futile. He never expected I would expose him in just 6 months. With the unused poison in his study serving as irrefutable evidence, the Marquis of Chongping wouldn't die immediately, but his days were numbered. 4 months later, I gave birth to a son. It was at my parents' home. This child must be a boy, and handling such matters at her parents' home is far easier than at the Marquis's residence. Fortunately, Jiao Lin proved reliable. The child in my womb was a son, sparing us much trouble. I returned to the Marquis for my postpartum confinement, where both the Marquis and the Marchioness remained silent. The baby bore a strong resemblance to Jiao Lin, making the Marchioness emotional and tearful at the sight. But in the end, she did not soften her heart again. The Marquis of Chongping sent someone to see Jiao Lin off on his final journey. I said, let me go instead. After all, we were once husband and wife, and he is the child's father. The child should bid him farewell. Jiao Lin hadn't suffered much in prison, because the Marquis of Chongping never intended to let him live from the start, so there was no need to torture him. Yet, Jiao Lin still believed there was room for redemption. I carried the child and brought 3 servants to see him. He had grown even fatter than before, and his skin was unnaturally pale from lack of sunlight. His temper had worsened too. I heard he threw things and shouted angrily in his cell every day. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Has father forgiven me? You're here to take me home, right? I knew it. I'm father's only son. How could he bear to let me die? I remained silent, spotting the infant in my arms. He exclaimed happily, is that our child? A son or daughter? Have you named them? Yuehua. I was foolish before, but from now on, let's live well as a family of 3. All right? I gazed at him coldly, gently patting the swaddling clothes as I said, do it. 3 servants approached him with expressionless faces. He was first bewildered, then, sensing something amiss, he stepped back. "What do you think you're doing?" The servants remained silent, merely closing in on him relentlessly. "Stay away from me. Let me go." He was seized by two servants, who twisted his arms behind his back. A third servant produced a porcelain bottle from his robe. His pupils contracted sharply. "Yua Hua Zhao, how dare you? I am the heir apparent of the Marquis of Chongping. How dare you?" No one paid him any heed. Finally terrified, he pleaded with me. "Yua Hua, I was wrong. I was wrong. Please don't kill me. Save me." I watched him coldly. The servant forced the medicine from the bottle into his mouth, releasing him only after he swallowed. He coughed violently and tried to induce vomiting with his fingers. I said, "It's useless. This poison was specially obtained by Father for you. A single drop is fatal. But rest assured, you won't suffer much. Father still holds some familial affection after all." "No," he shook his head, tears scattering with emotion. "Father wouldn't be so cruel. Mother, Mom, save me. Mom, please save me." No one could save him. I watched his struggles with a gentle gaze and added, "By the way, I actually invited San Nyang to see you off on your final journey as well. That's just how considerate I am of you. No need to thank me. But Third Lady said you're an unrelated person. She doesn't wish to come. She's now carrying my father's child and wants no further connection with people or matters from the past." "You're talking nonsense." He pointed at me, unwilling to believe it. I gave the child a smack on the bottom, and he burst into loud wails. Amidst the cries of his own son, Jiao Lin slowly collapsed to the ground, ceasing to breathe. The Marquis of Chongping held on until his grandson was 6 years old before passing away. So tenacious. For the sake of the sole heir of the Marquis household, he exhausted all his efforts. First, he vigorously promoted my maternal relatives. My father holds a third-rank official position. My eldest brother has become the deputy commander of the Imperial Guard. He also arranged a marriage for my sister with the young lord of the princedom. The matriarch was overjoyed and became even more ingratiating towards me, even moving my concubine, mother, to a spacious, sun-facing courtyard. Unfortunately, my sister was a true romantic and felt nothing for the young lord of the princedom. She fell in love with a chivalrous thief and eloped with him, although the princedom did not blame us. My father was so furious that he disowned her. The matriarch fell ill as well. My eldest sister-in-law cared for her day and night, but she never recovered. With my eldest sister-in-law managing the household, she treated my concubine, mother, with increasing respect. After the matriarch passed away, she persuaded my father and eldest brother to promote my concubine, mother, to the official wife. My concubine, mother, never dreamed that after a lifetime as a concubine, she would be elevated to the main wife in her old age. Madame Qian gave birth to a son and spent her days raising the child with my mother. Her brother also passed the imperial exams and, with my father's support, his future looked very promising. Then the Marquis of Chongping entrusted the entire marquisate, including his trusted aides and connections, into my hands. To raise a child without proper teaching is the fault of the father, and also the mother. He no longer trusted the Marchioness, and when she wanted to raise her grandson by her side, he overruled her. After his death, my son inherited the noble title. A 6-year-old Marquis of Chongping was a unique case in the capital. Though young, with the support of his maternal family and the connections left by his grandfather, he was not to be underestimated. When my mother-in-law tried to vie for power with me again, she stood no chance. I let her remain ill, and so she could only stay ill. I told her, "I'm sparing your life only because you wore me back then. Otherwise, you should have died with Jiao Lin long ago." She looked at me in terror, and then truly fell ill from fright. Her family, having accepted substantial compensation from the Marquis of Chongping's estate, did not pursue the matter. But deep down, I always felt uneasy, especially when I saw my father full of vigor, surrounded by children and grandchildren, with a harmonious family. That uneasiness became even more pronounced. I often recalled how he insisted I marry Jiao Lin and how my mother knelt begging him. At that time, he said, "It is Yuehwa's honor to contribute to the family." So later, when the Turks invaded and the court needed to send an envoy for peace talks, I contacted the old Marquis's former subordinates and recommended my father. My father had the ability, but he couldn't withstand the Turks' lack of sincerity. He was killed at the negotiation table. The court was enraged, the soldiers were incensed, and we achieved a great victory in that battle. After the war, when rewards were distributed, my father was also recognized. The emperor was generous, posthumously conferring upon my father the title of loyal and righteous count, and my eldest brother inherited the noble title. As my father's only daughter, I also received many benefits. The resentment in my heart was finally eased. I raised a toast at my father's grave. "Father, it was your honor to contribute to the nation.